Hi everybody, we're back again. These are the motors we've received back from engineering. As you can see, unfortunately we started this video a bit late. I've already cleaned and sprayed the blocks, gotten the bearings and the crankshafts in, checked the clearances and torqued them all up. So you can see on them got nice even movement, no end float on the crankshafts on any of them. End float is the backwards and forwards movement on the thrust bearing of the crankshaft. So for example, you have a lot more thrust on the crankshaft if you are driving a manual vehicle. The automatic, it's got a flex plate with a torque converter. You don't suffer from thrust bearing failure with the automatic, normally from a manual, because there's so much movement happening all the time. Okay, so next step now is to get all the new pistons into the various motors. So the three that we're busy with, the infamous Amarok, the Ford Ranger 3.2 and the Toyota Fortuner 3-litre D4D. Okay, so we'll do an update once we've got some of the pistons in. There's the other four over there. This is just some of the parts that we're going to be fitting. So we try and get all the internals done, get the cylinder heads on, and then we go from there. So before we fit these pistons, we're just going to give you a little bit more information on them. The technical aspects, if you come around and have a look at these, you can see they haven't had any rings fitted to them. These are the piston rings. So this will be your oil ring, your first and second compression rings. So when you're fitting them, you'll always find that rings have a mark indicating the top position of the ring. So there you can see nicely if you look at that one. So that is your rings there. These are called your ring lands on the pistons. When they wear too much and you've got too much movement there, you get what they call a chattering effect coming from the rings on the pistons. So that would be a good indication of it being time to replace them. Okay, if you have a look on these particular pistons here, you can see they've been topped. So in other words, some of the surface has been taken off because the piston height then is too high and will touch the cylinder head. These are all diesels we're busy with, so bearing in mind, if you have a look at the heads, you'll see they're all a flat surface on all of them. So there's no combustion chamber in the head itself, the combustion chamber is in the piston. So getting what we call the bump height correct, so it's the protrusion out of the block. So that has to be 100% correct. Okay, then if you have a look at the bearings, now even a lot of mechanics don't know this. You're going to see there's two different bearings on this particular conrod. Now there's different names for them. Most of them are referred to as being sputter bearings. So all that means is in the conrod itself you've got a hardened shell. That's to allow for that down thrust onto the crankshaft itself. So helping it last longer, is particularly on diesels and turbo motors especially, that they normally use these type of bearings. Not all of them do, but it's a much stronger option to have and to use. Okay, so if you put them the wrong way around, you're going to have premature failure of the bearings. So it's very important to note when you're fitting the bearings that they go in the right side of the cap and the conrod. Okay, just something to note on the block. As you can see, this come back from engineering. If you have a look at each cylinder, you're actually going to see a crisscross pattern in the cylinder there. So these have been rebored, so we're going with slightly bigger pistons. This is what they call the honing pattern. And that crisscross effect that you've got there is to stop oil getting past your pistons, helping it seal better. Now, a lot of guys, they just use a conventional honer and try and imitate the up and down movement to try and get this effect, but they end up actually just scoring it and having circular lines instead of the crisscross pattern that it's supposed to have. Okay, then you can also see, if you look carefully at the edge of the bore here, it's a nice small little taper there that is to help the rings go in easier into the cylinders, especially new rings, they fit tight. So to get them in, we're going to use what we call a ring compressor or ring squeezer, as most people know it. There's a lot of different types. Sometimes you have to use different ones to get the rings to fit properly. So it can be quite a battle. Okay, so just back onto the pistons. Forgetting to mention a couple of key areas. If you have a look over here, you're going to see there is a steel circlip, and this is what they call the gudgeon pin or wrist pin. Some are free floating, others are actually set into place using heat, whereby they heat up the conrod and press the gudgeon pin in, so the pin then doesn't actually move. Now, on these particular ones, you've got to make sure that the circlips are fitted correctly as well, away from your insert marker. Okay, and they must be clipped in properly. If one of these come out, the gudgeon pin will shift out and it will actually go through the cylinder wall, and that will be the end of your engine. So very important to check that. Obviously also nice and clean, everything lubricated. We never assemble the engine without oiling absolutely every internal part. Very important for initial startup. We'll cover that further down the line once we get to the oil pump, the priming procedure, etc., etc. But yes, never fit your pistons in tri unless you're building a race motor and it's only going to last one race. So yes, use the oil. Okay. So then also, just in conclusion on the pistons, the conrod bolts, these are obviously new conrods, so they come with new bolts, but they are one-time use. That's what we call a stretch bolt. So, you know, once you've torqued them, you can't reuse them again. So they must be replaced as well. They also have a tendency to snap if they torqued incorrectly or if you try and reuse them. So please replace your bolts. Okay, so here we are in the engine room again. This is the progress that I've made so far that you can see. This is the infamous Amrock, our 3.2 Ranger, almost ready for timing. Same with the Toyota Fortuner engine. So this is what happens when it's nice and quiet, and that's basically what I do on a weekend. So yeah, not all fun and games, but it comes with a job. Okay, so there you can see now the oil pump's been fitted along with the pickup for the oil pump. This has an internal strainer here to try and prevent any contaminants from getting into the oil pump itself. You'll see it's on a little plastic guide that is spring loaded, just to keep tension on the chain. This is the oil filter housing. Houses the oil filter as well as the engine oil cooler that supposedly helps to cool your engine oil. Right, so now we're ready to fit the sump. The sump is basically the reservoir for the oil in the vehicle, and then the pickup will obviously sit in the oil and be sucked up through the pump to distribute through the motor. Okay, so this is the sump. So you'll see what we don't replace, we clean properly and repaint so that it looks as good as new. This is not a new sump, it's just been painted. This is a new timing cover, just to give you an idea. So, not bad. Okay, this will close off the front of the motor where you see all the guards and the chain and the rest of it. So, the reason I'm showing you all of this as well, these are the original bolts for the sump and the timing cover. Not very pretty even once you've cleaned them. So, what we opt for rather are these. You can see, we normally buy packets of them at a time. They're what we call cap screws, stainless steel with stainless steel washers as well. A lot stronger, a lot prettier, and believe it or not, a lot cheaper than a pack of bolts from the agents. So cosmetically, will also look a lot nicer. So there we go, we'll fit the sump on so long and then you can have a pick of that when it's done. Okay, so as you can see, I've already applied the sealer. The sump takes no gasket, only silicone sealer. So the particular sealer they use at Ford, about 1,000 rand a tube. This stuff, just as good, if not better. As you can see over there, we use a lot of different products for various purposes. Motul as far as possible, but obviously they don't make everything, so that's whatever suits the job that we can get. That is a decent product.
Alright, so as you guys can see, we're looking at it upside down today. Most of the motor has been assembled, at least the internals. We still have the dressings to go on the side, a few nuts and bolts to go in, but we're about 80–85% there when it pertains to the motor build. It's almost time for this to go back into that old Amarok and raise it from the dead. So stay tuned and we'll catch up with you soon, and remember to like, subscribe and follow.